Hello and welcome back to Popeye Plays Higurashi. Last time, we went a little bit insane after, uh, killing a man, where all of our friends were convinced that we in fact were with them the whole time and that nothing has changed, but there's some pieces that make us know that what happened, what we think happened, happened. And one of those is the baseball bat that we used is gone. We went to see a doctor, told them what happened. Um, they said there's no way it could be a hallucination or a dream or anything like that. Although then they tried to sedate us and take us away, and we ran away. We went to go double check on the body because the doctor said the person we killed had a tattoo. But when we went to go dig up the uncle, they were gone. And the police showed up. And yeah, so that's where we ended off last time. I think last time I said this might be the final episode. I'm not entirely sure. Online, I saw conflicting reports that it has 12 chapters or 13. I'm not quite sure which case that is, and I didn't want to dig too deep in case I spoiled some things for me. Not that this will really spoil me, because I did watch the anime for this, but sometimes there's differences, and it's been a while since I watched it anyways. So, yeah, we'll dig in, and we'll see if this is the final episode or not. The body wasn't there. The police didn't arrest me because of that, but I didn't know whether to feel happy about it. Just like Satoko had said, I'd failed to kill her uncle. The body wasn't there, so I was forced to conclude as much, no matter what strange natural disaster, coincidence, or miracle it might have implied. In order to free Satoko, I became a demon. And this abnormal world was my reward. Yes, metaphorically, I'd fallen into the demon world. But if that price had been in exchange for the life of Satoko's uncle, then that would have been fine. Thanks for the host there, Corlizon. I know you usually stream about the same time after me. I will check you out if you were doing that. Since Satoko's uncle was still alive, still shackling her to him, I needed to become a demon once again. One more time. No, as many times as it took. I would kill that man over and over again until Satoko was liberated. I had already awoken. I looked at the clock to see it was early in the morning, at just about 5. It was already light outside. Once I'd hardened my resolve to become a demon again, I could feel my whole body teeming with the awakened power once more. Time wasn't an issue. No matter what, I'd do it. I got myself up. The exhaustion from the past 2 days was completely swept away, and I didn't even feel sleepy anymore either. I slowly rose and made sure my body was moving like I wanted it to. I could feel blood flowing through each and every one of my fingers. As I got dressed, I let my mind wander, and had a strange thought. These 2 days, while I've said it was for Satoko's sake, the only thing on my mind has been killing. I've said it was for Satoko, but while actually carrying out the act, I'd completely forgotten about Satoko, albeit temporarily. Maybe, initially it was for Satoko's sake, but now I was just a demon, killing for the sake of killing. And as a result, I'd sunk into a world fit for such a demon. Maybe it was the same for Satoshi. He'd resolved himself to killing his aunt to save Satoko, became a demon, then disappeared from the sunlit Hinamizawa, vanishing into the demon world. Which meant that, after all was said and done, I'd meet the same fate as him. I tried to avoid making the same mistakes, but it happened anyway. which meant that maybe Satoshi was here. Satoshi had come to this world a year before me, so he would be here somewhere. Then, surprised, I stopped walking. There was the second set of footsteps I'd grown so used to hearing.
お前、ひょっとしてサトシなのか?
The empty, lifeless air wouldn't give me an answer. But I felt a strange kind of relief that there was someone there, that Satoshi had stuck with me the whole time. Let's go, Satoshi. Once more. This time we will set Satoko free for sure. I quietly slipped out of the house so my parents wouldn't notice. If they caught me now when I'd been out way too late for 2 days now, they'd give me a really angry talking to. I didn't have the time to allow for that to happen. Today, I had put an end to it. If the dead body disappeared, then I didn't have to bury it. I could just burn it to ashes, then take them with me, so I could kill him again every time he resurrected. I'd do it again. I'd kill him again. And this time I'd set her free. Outside, the morning light was so beautiful as to stagger belief. I went to the storage room to find weapons with which I could kill him for sure. Blunt or not, it didn't matter to me. Right now, I didn't need to care whether someone saw or if the police came. This world had gone crazy after all. A world where I'd shown up at the festival and had fun, even though I wasn't there. Even if the police arrested me, I'd probably end up going right back home as if nothing had happened. Both me and the other Keiichi Maibara. Even without me, he'd fill in. I could vanish from Hinamizawa without anyone noticing. So basically, I didn't care if I was mistakenly killed. Even if I died, Keiichi Maibara would remain. After all, this isn't the world I belong in. If I was going to be killed mistakenly for Satoko's sake, then that was just my duty as her Nini. As those desperate thoughts became serious, the morning air felt more refreshing to me, strangely enough.
これは怖いな。こいつにするか?
It was a hatchet, meant for chopping thick firewood. Its hefty steel blade was sinister, almost as though it was a tool meant for killing people. I couldn't exactly take it out in public like that, so I wrapped it a little in some old newspaper and tossed it into the basket on my bike.
連日、悪い用事に使ってばかりで悪いな。今日も頼むぜ。俺の足。
I apologized to my bike for some reason. For the past 3 days, I'd only used it for dangerous things. I'd been riding this bike ever since I'd lived in my old town. I could walk most places I wanted to go, so I hadn't used it all that much. My mom had bought it for me when I entered cram school, thinking it would be a convenient way to get to the station since it was far away. So I'd always used it to get back and forth from cram school. I'd only ever put textbooks and class materials in the front basket, too. I'd never tried to put a hatchet that I'd be using to kill someone in here. I mean, I'm kinda glad that's the case. When I came to Hinamizawa, life finally felt fun. I met the best friends ever and had some of the greatest times ever. Those times might have been shattered now, but it was my greatest wish that I could get them back, even if I had to risk my life to do it. That's how fun those times had been. I killed someone, and now I was at it again, needing to kill someone. Murder was a crime, thank you for stating the obvious. I didn't believe that people should ever think murder was okay. But still, the times I'd had were enjoyable enough for me to commit such a crime. My friends were irreplaceable, and the time spent with them a treasure. Hanging out, laughing, sometimes tricking each other, but always in a friendly way. I didn't fear committing any crime as long as it was for the sake of taking back those times that gave my heart so much pleasure. Yes, this was a value I'd decided to uphold. It wasn't something I'd learned from a school teacher. It was a noble path that I chose for myself. I thought back to when I'd first come to Hinamizawa, about how on the very first day Satoko had welcomed me via a blackboard eraser with a rock in it. That welcome really surprised the heck out of me. She would laugh, get angry, cry. She was never boring. She was obviously the most childlike one among us, but she was actually lively, full of vim and vigor, and good at meddling in other people's business. That went for Mion, Rena, and Rika-chan, too. Wasn't Satoko the one at the center of everyone's laughing and banter? Satoko would try to look cool. Then Mion would make fun of her endlessly. Then Satoko would cry, which would put Rena into a case of ecstasy. Rika-chan would be greatly delighted. And I happened to get mixed up in it. Usually by getting hit. We would always fool around like that. It was lonely when someone wasn't around, but if I had to name one for whom it was the worst, it would have been Satoko. Her smile was everyone's smile. Ever since she stopped smiling, so did the rest of us. And for the rest of us, not smiling was the same as dying. It was just like when I was silently going to cram school every day just to maintain my unchanging test scores. So, basically, we were nothing when she wasn't smiling. She was full of hot air, but she was our princess, cute and unhateable. In that case, I was her knight, searching for the dragon's castle in order to win her smile back.
ナイトなら武器は剣だろ。通販デッドのかっこいいやつ。
I mean, they also have swords and shields and lances and many things.
錆びた肉厚のナタで挑むナイトは、多分古今東西俺一人だな。
I'll agree with you there. Then I saw an old woman in the ridge of a field waving to me.
おや
Just called old person.
ケイチ君かい朝のサイクリングかいね
おはようございます。
I reflexively waved back in a refreshing way. Should I really have been feeling so happy waving like that? Satoko's house would be right past this road, going beyond the rice paddies. The cicadas had woken up too, and the next thing I knew, I was the audience to their daily chorus. I gave myself a hit or two in the head, and drove away my merry morning mood. I took a deep breath, then tilted my head back, quelling my pointless excitement. The body wasn't there. Its absence either meant my killing him had been an illusion, or that it killed him and he'd risen from the dead. If I was at the festival, then maybe I should have considered it an illusion. Coach probably thought that way, which is why he was treating me like a lunatic. But it being an illusion was just impossible. I killed him without a doubt. Without a doubt. If that had been an illusion, that would make all of this Hinamizawa's in right now an illusion. If that was the case, then here's how it would end up. I was actually in a vegetative state due to a traffic incident. I was currently dreaming in a hospital bed about how great it would be to spend time with friends and rice paddies like these. That was a terrifying thought, though. If this wasn't an illusion, then the only possible answer was that he'd resurrected. It would make him a literal monster. But if he was such a monster, then I was no less than a monster myself. I didn't hesitate to kill someone, and I could even manipulate curses. Takano-san had probably died because I'd cursed her. Or maybe that was a little much. If Coach and Oishi died too, like I'd cursed them to yesterday, then I'd believe it. I set my bicycle inside and went to take a look. His motorbike wasn't here. Of course it wasn't. I sent it down to hell that night, throwing it into the Onigafuchi swamp. Or maybe, just like how the corpse wasn't here, maybe the motorbike didn't get thrown into the swamp either. The fact his bike wasn't here might have been because he'd gone to town and hadn't come back, not necessarily because I'd thrown it into the swamp. I don't know, the guy doesn't like to do anything for himself, makes his child under his care do all his work, and I don't think he's going to be up at, like, let's say it took us an hour to get here, 6 a.m. to go into town. If her uncle wasn't around, then that was convenient on its own. Then I would just show myself in, then wait for him to return, sharpening my hatchet. If he was there. Forgotten sensations came back to my gut. A feeling of tension rose up within me. The sensation was like poison, dulling my actions, but it could also be the trigger to allow me to awaken to my superhuman, otherworldly self. I held the hatchet, still wrapped in newspaper. Its weight in my hands was profound, sinister, and reliable. I didn't know what time it was without a clock. It was probably still a little before 7. Okay, it took us like 2 hours to get here. Still probably too early for someone who doesn't want to do anything. Satoko would probably be awake, preparing breakfast and her lunch, but her uncle would probably still be wallowing in indolence. A guy like him would probably have stayed up late drinking, and probably always slept until noon. I considered ringing the doorbell and having Satoko open the door for me, but if her uncle woke up at the sound, I'd waste my chance of him still being asleep. If Satoko saw me sneaking inside without ringing the doorbell, she'd be surprised. If I ran into her, what would I say? I've come to kill your uncle for you, so stay quiet? No, I couldn't do that. That would be like making Satoko responsible for his death. Be quiet and go wait outside. Maybe that would do it? How would Satoko react to that? She would probably try and get me to give up on killing him. I would have to lie somehow to get her to go outside. Satoko didn't need to know that a murder was going to occur in this house. I couldn't quite think of a good lie to tell her, but I couldn't do much just standing around like this. I made up my mind and grabbed the doorknob. Then, slowly, turned it. And pulled. It wasn't locked. The gap between the door and the wall steadily grew larger. The chain wasn't even on. The oppressive smell of life in Satoko's house hit me. At the entrance, there were a few pairs of shoes and sandals. I couldn't tell whether he was here or not just by looking at them. I could hear a television on somewhere. That television is not on. The television was in the messy dining room. Yeah, it is indeed messy, although those would appear to be tomatoes in the bowl in the center look quite nicely untouched. There was food scattered about the table, giving an impression decidedly different from a happy family's mealtime. Meals were for eating food while thanking the person for making it. Meaning whatever occurred in this dining room wasn't a meal. Nobody in sight. No sign of anyone either. But with the television on, he must have been close. Could he have anticipated my coming and be hiding, waiting for me? The tension I felt was so thick, so tight, that I thought it would choke me. The newspaper wrapping the hatchet's thick blade didn't hamper its power at all. I tightened my grip on it, then very carefully took a look around. Where had those peaceful feelings from before I arrived here gone? Even the sound of sweat bubbling up on my brow got on my nerves. And then I looked at the table and realized something. This wasn't breakfast. The grains of boiled rice were all hard and dried up. Then, was it last night's dinner? I left the dining room, keeping vigilant, went down the hallway, and found the stairs to the second floor. When that man was playing with his friends, he looked out of a second-story window. It was highly possible that room was his own, and that he slept there. I tiptoed up to the edges of the stairs, quietly climbing, without making a sound. I couldn't hear any kind of snoring. I didn't hear anything up there. I went through a few rooms, slowly and quietly opening the paper doors, checking inside. But I still couldn't find anyone around. To search more efficiently, I got down on the floor and pressed my ear right up to it. I could hear the television in the dining room, and a low hum, perhaps of boiling water. It was then that I started to harbor some feelings of suspicion. This house wasn't right. It seemed like people had been here since the TV was on, but it wasn't normal for nobody to be around this early in the morning. I silently descended the stairs and went back into the dining room. I looked at the food scattered about. Completely dried up rice. An overturned bowl of miso soup. The package for a side dish bought at the supermarket. I could tell Satoko had definitely been the one who made this. The food was far from Mion's perfection, or Renda's gentleness, but it was sincere. Judging by how she cooked for me at my house, and from the type and amount of side dishes, I deduced the meal was from last night. The number stamped into the food package read 830620. June 20th, 1983. That was yesterday. And there was food for two, which meant that this was last night's dinner, and Satoko's uncle would have been here then. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't even think about saying the word impossible again. Yes, please don't. I swear you said it 1,000 times, and made me say it 1,000 times last time. Anyway, her uncle was here last night. That much was the truth. He had found fault with Satoko's food, thrown the bowl of miso soup, and flung the rest everywhere. Hidden deep within my feelings of calm and composure was lit a flame of anger and a curse. Should I have ever shown this man any mercy? Bump. I heard the sound again, the one from before, like a water boiler. What was it coming from? The first floor? But where? The bathroom, maybe? I could hear the noise coming from the other side of the frosted glass at the far end of the changing room. It had to have been the sound of the water boiler for the bath. Steam was enshrouding the glass door, and the heat from it was leaking into the changing room where I was standing too. My misgivings deepened. People didn't normally take a bath this early in the morning. If one did, then it would mean that in this house, time had been stopped ever since some moment last night. Yes, ma'am, Lord Gaben is in this washroom, ready to pop out and give us many discounts, I hope. Whistle, whistle, whistle. Was it being reheated? The water boiler in the bathroom had been active this whole time. I checked in a clothing basket and saw Satoko's familiar uniform stuffed in it. The uniform had stains and dried rice stuck to it. Certainly not something she could wear today. It was probably from the miso soup at the dinner table yesterday. I looked hard at the frosted glass, but I couldn't see anything through all the steam. And then an electric surge ran through my mind. A terrible premonition came over me. Could she... She couldn't possibly have been in there since last night. That would be impossible, he says once again, even though he just said I shouldn't say it anymore. But no. In Hinamizawa right now, nothing was impossible. I gulped audibly, then quietly pulled aside the glass door. Hot steaming air burst out of the slight opening. The fan wasn't on in the changing room, so it went completely white with the steam. Just as the hot vapor poured into the changing room, cooler air also flowed into the room with the bath. And I just heard, due to being hit by that air, a very weak moan. That was all I needed to know who it was.
Satoko!
It was not Lord Gaben, unfortunately. No answer. Satoko was in the bathtub, surrounded by a thick layer of rising steam. The top half of her body was leaning over the edge of the tub, and she was passed out. The water boiler kept on making a whistling noise, as if angered. I could see the gas flame through a small window. It was roaring at full force, completely blue. Yeah, for once, ma'am, I'm not going to complain that they don't have a scene background for this. Satoko's entire body was boiled red and flaccid, as though her bones had melted away. She was almost like a doll as she laid there unconscious. I wasn't sure how many seconds passed as I stared in complete bafflement. I came back to my senses and promptly shut off the boiler. Then I dragged Satoko's small body out of the bathtub. The water in it was as hot as the water in public baths. Was she in this boiling water for the entire night? She'll die. She'll die. Satoko's body was lighter than I'd expected, as I laid her on the floor and wrapped her in a towel. I went back into the bathroom and opened up the vent, creating a path for a cool breeze to come through. Upon the breeze hitting her, Satoko moaned again.
大丈夫かSatoko俺だケイチだわかるか聞こえるか
Satoko recognized me and muttered a response, but I couldn't really tell what she was saying. Her eyes were muddy and unfocused. I could tell she wasn't completely conscious. Upon closer inspection, her limbs and waist were twitching slightly. This was way worse than normal overheating. This was dangerous. Didn't they call this heat stroke? Think, what would the teacher do if a girl passed out in the middle of summer during a marathon in gym class or something? I turned the water faucet in the kitchen all the way on and soaked a towel in it. Then I took the cold towel and pressed it to Satoko's forehead. Satoko reacted harshly to the coldness and let out a muffled voice. For burns, right, you would soak the burning spot under running water. Then, could I run cold water in the shower and cool her off like that? No. If it was that sudden, it wouldn't be good for her heart, and she'd go into shock. I think I'd read that once before. I should say right now, I don't actually know whether this is sound medical advice, so don't follow it and listen to a professional. This was about as much nursing as I could possibly give her. Anything more than this would be too much for the likes of an amateur.
大丈夫かSatokoもう大丈夫だからな必ず俺がニーニーが助けてやるからな
I'm pretty sure he's right too, Mim, but as I said, I'm not 100% sure and I'm not trained in it, so I'd rather advocate people actually look it up rather than follow the advice in a game. What was Satoko reciting under her breath? I brought my ear to her mouth to better make out the mysterious spell-like words she kept saying. I mean, I would also say you probably should have phoned the doctor or police or someone, assuming this house has a telephone, which I think it does. This is supposed to be, I think, 86, so I'm not entirely sure. But yes, I would agree with your statement. And at that moment, I understood what they were for.
Satoko, お前数を数えてるのか？なんで？
People tell little kids in the bath to count to 100 a lot, right? Yeah, if there's someone else around, you should send someone else to call. Satoko was counting like that. But 5,039?
バカ野郎！お前の家の風呂はいくつ数える決まりになってんだよ！
I doubted my ears and doubted her common sense. 10,000?
ふざけるなバカ野郎！1万なんて数えられるバカがどこにいるんだよ！数えられるわけねえだろ！その前にユダって死んじまうに決まってんだろ！どうしてこんなことに！
おじ
Last night, her uncle flew into a rage at the dinner she'd made, saying it stunk and wasn't edible. Satoko didn't understand what on earth he meant. It wasn't much different from what she usually made for him. Maybe he hated the smell of the pickled vegetables she'd bought in particular. Her uncle then decided the stink was originating from Satoko, and shouted at her that she never ever took baths. And then he put Satoko in the boiling water and told her not to come out until she'd counted to... I snapped and exploded. Raising the newspaper-wrapped hatchet, does that say stamped? Stamped through the house? I searched for anything. Traces, signs, smells, vibrations, heartbeats. With the war cry, I raced up the stairs with such force I could have stomped a hole through them. Stampeded. Yes. Thank you, Mim. Then, I found the futon in the room I thought to be her uncle's, and well aware he wasn't sleeping in it, I bashed it with the hatchet. Did he run into the closet? I'll bust the entire closet down, door and all. And if he's not there, maybe there's a secret door. Any switches or levers in the walls here? I smashed into wall after wall with the hatchet, crushing them. Dust rose into the air, and broken pieces scattered about the floor. I smashed all the glass windows too, for good measure. After I destroyed everything beyond recognition in her uncle's room, my reason finally kicked in and suppressed my emotions. Anyway, her uncle wasn't in the house right now. I'd have to leave killing him until later. Right now I had to do something about Satoko. I went back to the changing room. Satoko was still lying limp on the floor. There was nothing more an amateur like me could do for her. I needed to take her to the clinic. Not a lot, Mim. So, the last episode ended with, like, the abusive police and the uncle not being in the grave. And then this episode started with him being like, well, I guess I need to just go keep murdering the uncle until he doesn't come back. So he heads straight to the house, sneaks in, looks around, tries to find the uncle, doesn't, hears the sound of the hot water heater going into overdrive, and is like, is someone in the bathroom? Maybe I should check it out. And I think that's about when you came in, when with Steam Lord Gaben section. Coach had treated me like a lunatic yesterday and tried to lock me up in a mental hospital. I never wanted to see his damn face again. But I still needed to go to the infirmary one more time. I needed to have a doctor look at Satoko. I thought about putting her in the dirty uniform lying in the laundry basket, but I had no experience dressing someone, so it would be pretty difficult. I don't think it would be that difficult. Shit, I don't have time to be wasting here. I eventually gave up on clothing her and decided to carry her in her bath towel. The clinic was close to Satoko's house. It would be way faster to carry her there and then to call 119 and get an ambulance. I'm actually surprised the little clinic has an ambulance, to be honest. I would expect it would just be like one of the nurses' cars if something really bad happened. I threw the biggest towel I could find over her and prompted her to stand.
立てるか。俺が診療所までおぶって行ってやるから。
ありがとうですわ。
Wrapping her could probably be bad anyways, and she wouldn't be in a bad condition in multiple. Not sure I fully understand what you're saying there, Mim. Oh. Like, just adding more layers anyways? Her words sounded clearer than before. She was starting to come back. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I cried tears of relief just knowing she'd improved even a little bit. Satoko turned over so she was lying on her face and then put up a weak struggle to get up on a knee. I smoothly swept her up and put her on my back. The towel I put on her seemed like it was about to fall off.
バスタオル痛い。
すぐ着くから。しばらくの間だけ我慢してろ。
It didn't hurt one bit to carry Satoko. She was light. Too light. The lightness actually made me uneasy. Outside, it had gotten hotter, as though eager to attack Satoko. Fucking cicadas. Why did it have to choose this morning to get so hot out? I didn't have time to swear at them, but you did it anyways. The clinic was this way. Hoisting Satoko on my back, I broke into a trot. We get to go back to our favorite doctor. Yeah, I can't imagine things against your skin feel good after suffering many burns. The hilly road to the clinic, with which I'd never had difficulties before, was now tortuous. Big beads of sweat formed on my brow, and at some point my breath had grown faint. The hatchet in my belt was heavy and made it hard to walk. I considered leaving it, but I couldn't let it go. At least, not while Satoko's uncle was still breathing. The signboard for the Irie clinic came into sight, but I quickly noticed something was odd, so I stopped. Several red revolving lights were flashing at the clinic. 3 police cars were parked in the parking lot with their lights on. There didn't need to be much else to inform me something had happened. I didn't want to see Coach, so I'd planned to leave Satoko in the clinic waiting room and give the receptionist a message. But with that police officer Oishi here, I couldn't go inside so carelessly.
なんですの？
Oh, good. Well, I'm actually surprised there's a sprite for this. I'm kind of scared to cycle through the others, but we're gonna... Oh gosh, that's terrifying. What's...
パトカーがいっぱいいますですわよ。
I gently put Satoko down in the shade of the thicket.
わからない。様子を見てくるからしばらくここにいろ。
レディをバスタオル1枚でこんなとこに置いてくなんてなってませんわね。
Yes, ma'am, these are different. I think for the first time ever, I will say the PlayStation art is probably the best, in my opinion. It also looks like to me that maybe the original art didn't do the one where it does the close-up version of it,
それだけ
perhaps?
扱いがつけりゃ大丈夫だ。
I'll be right back, I added, getting to my feet. Cautious of my surroundings, I hid myself behind a car and got closer to the officers grouped at the clinic's entrance. I overheard an officer wearing a necktie, probably their leader, and a white-robed doctor having a discussion about something. The doctor didn't seem to be Coach. It was one of those who Coach told me to make the tea yesterday.
じゃあつまり最初に見つけたのは朝当番のあなただったと。それでどんな感じだったんです？
事務室の所長席のソファーに座って居眠りをしているように見えました。
で、机の上に水差しと空き瓶になった睡眠薬があったんで、あなたはすぐに睡眠薬で自殺したんだと考えたと。それで
高熱と瞳孔の拡大に重度の意識障害も見られました。睡眠薬中毒の典型的な重症例だと思いましたので、直ちに対応に入りました。
警察も救急も呼ばずに？
ここは病院で私は医師ですよ。生命が危険な状態にあるなら直ちに治療して当然です。
ああ、まあいいからいいから。それで
呼吸が不正常だったので人工呼吸を施しました。合わせて呼吸刺激薬を投与。効果が出なかったので人工呼吸器の準備をし。
ああ、はいはい。それでつまりいろいろ頑張ったけど結局ダメだったと。そういうわけですよね。通報は死んでから直ちに？
はい。救うことができず、とても残念です。
Just then, a radio in one of the police cars started to buzz, producing a broken, mechanical voice.
こちら本部、こちら本部。小宮山さん、聞こえますか？どうぞ。
もしもし、小宮山です。ああ、お疲れ様です。睡眠薬での自殺みたいですね。遺書の類はなし。
Suicide? What the heck were they talking about? I think you mean who are they talking about, and I think we have a pretty good idea. Someone had committed suicide at the clinic. But who? I wished Takano-san dead, and she died the next day. And yesterday, I wished Coach was dead. Then, could he have?
普段から睡眠薬を常用していたとかは？
あまり知りません。
日頃疲れたとか死にたいとかそんなこと言ってました？
入江先生は普段からああいう性格でしたから、とてもそんな風には。
So, I was right. Yurie-sensei, they were talking about Coach. Coach killed himself. Why would he do that? There couldn't have been any reason he wanted to die. The only reason that came to mind was that I wanted him dead. This world was insane. If I wanted someone dead, they'd die. That was the kind of world this was. Then, what about Oishi? What happened to him? If people really died because I wanted them to, then something should have happened to him, too.
そちらに応援が向かいました。課長からそちらは応援に任せて大石社の捜索に戻るとのことです。
了解しました。じゃあすいません。こっちに今応援が来てるそうですから、現場はこのままにしておいてください。おい、行くぞ。
The officers nodded and split up into the patrol cars. Did they just say, searching for Oishi's car? Searching for his car? That meant he had gone missing? Takano-san, Coach, and Oishi. When I wished for it, the very next day they disappeared. No matter how angry you were when you said you wished someone was dead, it didn't normally happen. Everyone just knew wishing for it wouldn't make them dead. That's why people could utter such curses so lightly. But the curses I uttered were being granted. At the time, I hadn't even been walking, and yet... Tap. I heard a footstep. And it wasn't only one this time. Tap, tap. They came from behind, and they stood right behind me, reaching a hand for my shoulder.
一体何事なんですの？
It's like he forgot there was actually someone behind him this time.
サトコか。脅かすなよ。
驚いたのはこっちでしてよ。いきなり大声を出さないでくださいまし。
It was Satoko. Her eyes were still unstable, unfocused, but she seemed able to at least walk on her own now. She looked far better now compared to her earlier exhausted state.
具合はどうなんだ？もう大丈夫なのか？
まだ頭が痛いですけど、いつまでもこんな格好で表にいられませんもの。
She gave a smile, a show of courage, but her legs were still shaky.
それより、これは一体何事なんですの？今、警察が話してるのを聞いてた限りじゃ。
監督が自殺したらしい。
Satoko was at a loss for words. Her face grew paler and paler, and I could tell she was doubting her own ears.
ケイチさん、それ本当ですの？何かの聞き間違いじゃないんですの？
確かにそう聞いたよ。入江先生が睡眠薬で自殺したって。
Satoko went down on her knees and broke out in tears.
嘘で、監督が自殺なんて、そんなの絶対に。
As I watched Satoko crying and clawing at the grass, I felt myself trapped by guilt and remorse. I got so angry that Coach was treating me like a madman yesterday, that he'd betrayed me, that I'd thought he'd be better off dead. But even Coach, who, to me, deserved to die, still must have had people who loved and respected him. Like Satoko here. In my selfish, egotistical anger, I wished for his death, and it was granted. And now, Satoko was crying hysterically as a result. The guilt tore at my heart. I worked myself up to murder for Satoko's sake. I decided I wanted Satoko to be happy. But was that really all it took? Murder meant taking someone's life. It meant making everyone attached to that person sad. In Satoko's uncle's case, of course, nobody would be sad, so I didn't feel a sense of guilt at all. But Coach's death was different. I had wanted to make Satoko happy, and that had resulted in me inflicting a deep sadness upon her, hadn't it? But Coach killed himself. It wasn't my... Satoko still hadn't stopped crying, but she seemed to be a little calmer now. Wiping her tears, she stood up.
すまない。
And the only thing I could think of to say to her was an apology.
どうして謝りますの？
俺昨日監督と喧嘩してお前なんか死んじまえって呪ったんだ。呪ったから本当に死んじゃって。
Satoko looked at me dubiously for a few moments. Eventually, her expression softened as she interpreted my words in her own way.
圭一さんのせいではありませんわ。監督も大人ですもの。自分の命を捨てるに値する都合があって悩んだ末に選んだんですもの。誰のせいでもありませんわ。
She smiled a little, trying to comfort me.
いつまでもこのままでいたくありませんわ。服が欲しい。
いいのかよ。診療所に行って見てもらった方が。
服を着てから見てもらっても別に死にはしませんわ。
Satoko readjusted her bath towel and started back along the path. Okay, I guess we're just walking back to her house now. Her stride was wobbly, and it didn't look like she'd recovered as much as she let on. At first, Satoko tried to go back home, but it was the time of the morning when people were going to school and to work, so after seeing people walking around, she thought better of it. You are concerned, Mim. Why are you concerned? She must have been pretty embarrassed wearing only the towel.
理科のうちに行きますわよ。私の服あるはずですから。
Many reasons.
どうしたんですの？圭一さん。
Satoko noticed how I was hanging my head and spoke to me.
監督はああ見えても大人ですのよ。圭一さんと喧嘩したくらいで自殺するような人ではありませんわ。自分を責めるのをおやしなさいませ。
Have I broken you yet again, Mim? At first, I thought it was a coincidence, but with 3 people now, I couldn't discard the possibility. There was no such thing as impossible in this world.
この数日おかしいんだ。
何がですの？
Satoko seemed to be having trouble breathing, but she still tried to listen to what I had to say.
おとといの綿流しのお祭り、お前は途中で帰ったから行かなかったんだよな。そして俺は祭りに行ってみんなと遊んだ。
らしいですわね。あの時は取り乱して申し訳ありませんでしたわね。
Satoko remembered how she blew up at me in the classroom yesterday, and bowed to me a little.
実は俺祭りに行っていないって言ったら信じるか？
Satoko looked at me, confused. She couldn't help it, of course.
信じられるわけありませんわ。何を今さら。
信じられないだろう。信じられないのは俺も同じなんだ。だって俺は祭りに行っていないのに、俺が祭りに現れてみんなと遊んだって言うんだ。こんなの信じられるわけないだろ。
それ本気ですの？
ああ、 あの綿流しの夜からおかしいんだ。いつの間にか変な足音がペタペタとついてくるようになって。
The blood drained from Satoko's expression.
足音が。
And apparently we've been walking as we've been talking. I mean, I guess I'm glad we're not just standing and doing nothing.
そうなんだ。最初は気のせいだと思ってたけど、ずっとついてくるんだ。多分今もついてきてる。里子の足音と混じってよく聞き分けられないけれど。
Satoko took a long and hard look at me. Maybe she was doubting my sanity. I seriously hope she is. I know I am. Coach did the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't he, after telling him this? The more I thought about it, the more I was unable to endure the feeling that my hatred for Coach had been meaningless.
綿流しの日、俺は祭りに行かず、あることをしていたんだ。ずっとだぞ。眠ったり意識がなくなったりしたことはなかった。だから寝ぼけ気分でフラフラと記憶になく祭りに出かけたなんてことはありえない。
それはおかしいですわね。ならどうやってお祭りで遊んだんですの？
だから俺は祭りには行ってないんだよ。
No, I can't let myself get emotional. If I get agitated now, that'd be like proving that there's something wrong with my head.
あ、ごめん。みんなが信じてくれないんで、つい。
圭一さんがそう言うなら信じてあげますわ。それで？
あの夜、高野さんに会ったんだ。それで見下されたと思って、俺は心の中で念じたんだ。お前なんか死んじまえって。
高野さんってどことなくそういう雰囲気がございますものね。その気持ちわからなくもありませんでしたよ。
高野さんが死んだの昨日の話だ。どこかで焼け死んだらしい。
それ本当ですの？死んだんですの？
俺が死ねと願うと、それから警察の大石ってやつも。
He's not confirmed, though.
知ってるか？あのムカつく太った刑事みたいなやつ。
Satoko nodded a little.
さっき警察が話してるのを聞いたんだが、どうもあいつ行方不明になってるらしい。実は昨日あいつにも死んじまえって念じてたんだ。
それ本当の話ですの？
嘘じゃない。俺だって信じたくないけど本当の話なんだ。高野さんも監督も大石も俺が死ねと念じたら本当に死んでしまったんだ。
For a little while, Satoko was at a loss. A long silence ensued.
それは怖い話ですわね。圭一さんにせめて嫌われないように気をつけませんと。
それだけじゃない。もっとおかしいこともあるんだ。それはお前のおじなんだ。
おじさまの話はやめてくださいましな。
昨日いたんだろ、お前の家に。
あの人の話はやめてくださいます。嫌なんですの。
ありえないんだ。あいつがいるわけがないんだ。
やめてって言ってますのよ。
あの男が綿流しの夜以降いるわけがないんだ。だって
あの男のことはもう嫌なんです
の。俺が殺したんだ、この手で。
Even the cicadas stopped crying. Her face was streaked with tears, and it stiffened even more as she looked at me in disbelief.
俺が綿流しの祭りの夜にお前の叔父を殺したんだ。だからお前の家に帰ってくるなんてことはありえないんだ。
But still, he went back. And last night, he found fault with the dinner you made him, yelled all sorts of things at you, then basically boiled you in the bathtub. That couldn't possibly have happened.
だから俺はあの男を確かに殺したという証拠を確かめるために埋めた死体を昨日掘り返したんだ。だがそこには死体はなかった。こんなことがあり得ると思うか。確かに殺したのに死体がないんだ。そして何事もなかったかのように帰宅してお前の前にこんなことがあっていいはずないだろう。
Satoko's entire body stiffened. She was shrinking away, like there was someone in front of her, about to hurt her.
お前も俺のこと頭が変になったって思ってるんだろうな。
Yes, definitely.
無理もないさ。俺だって信じられない。
圭一さんはきっと空前呪った人が死んでしまったんで混乱してるだけに違いありませんわ。監督の自殺にショックを受けて気が動転してるだけなんですのよ。今日はもう学校を休んでお家で休んだ方がよろしいと思いますわ。私はもう平気ですから、どうかご自分の体を大事になさいまし。
Satoko spoke like she understood me, but she also told me to go home. I could see the revulsion in her face and knew that she didn't want to be around me anymore.
サトコをちゃんと診療所まで見送ったら俺も帰る。サトコだってまだ足元がフラフラじゃないか。途中で倒れたら大変だぞ。
私はもう本当に大丈夫なんですのよ。男の人にいつまでもこんな姿を晒していたくないんですのよ。
She wobbled up the shrine steps, looking like she was about to fall. I immediately ran up to her, helped her stay on her feet. But then Satoko promptly jumped away from me. That outright rejection hurt a lot. Once she got to the top of the stairs, her breathing was ragged, and she wasn't even looking at me. At this point, I was being ignored. Well, it was more like she didn't want to have anything to do with me. It really was a feeling of rejection. And that hurt my heart more than any blade could have. This was the path I chose for her sake. To be treated like this at the end of it all was just so saddening. Don't be naive, Keiichi Maibara. You never wanted to be repaid in the first place. You didn't do it so that Satoko would thank you. You did it so that Satoko would be happy. And that was what led to this ending. Rika-chan's house was a disaster prevention storehouse used by the town council. If you went past it a little further through the shrine grounds, you'd apparently reach the back of the assembly hall. Satoko was heading there, walking quickly, the gravel under her feet crunching as she went. And probably not feeling too good. Did she want to get there as soon as possible? Or did she want to run away? I couldn't tell. And then I heard the vigorous sound of wings flapping. I turned around and saw a crow. I hadn't seen many crows since coming to Hinamizawa. I saw them a lot in my old town, though. On garbage day, they'd flock to trash collection points, peck through the bags with their beaks, drag out the contents, and have a feast. As I was remembering that, I saw a few crows flocking around the shrine's donation box, and I thought how terrible it was for someone to leave a garbage bag in a place like that. The cicadas quieted. Breathing stopped. Thoughts ceased. Even time came to a halt. I ran over to where the crows were flocking. I ran there in order to drive a horrible idea out of my mind. I definitely hadn't wanted this. There was no way I would ever wish for this by mistake. This was not. When they noticed my vicious approach, the crows all flapped upwards, fleeing into the sky. When the crows' big black bodies flew away, they exposed the garbage bag. What had I seen there? The scream had escaped from my throat before I understood what I was looking at. What was this? Satoko came over as well, realizing something had happened. And she looked over my shoulder. Then she screamed as well. This wasn't... The garbage bag was crimson, dyed in fresh blood. Enough of this stupid, roundabout way of saying it. That's right, yes. Yes, it was Rika-chan. Our friend, Satoko's best friend. Always easygoing, clever as a cat, but so cute you couldn't hate her. Our friend, Rika-chan. She was... Rika-chan was stark naked. She was face up, limbs sprawled. Her eyes were like glass, just staring up into the sky. And
Rika! Rika! Rika!
Satoko broke down crying on the spot. And yet, she still couldn't approach her friend's remains. The crows had gotten through the garbage bag and they dragged out an apple peel and spread it all over. No. Crows, they couldn't do this. It's a lovely sound. On the spot, I started vomiting. The sour taste became a bitter one as I threw up over and over again. Rika-chan. Her stomach was cut wide open, vertically, completely open. Crows couldn't have done this. And from her open stomach, her organs, her bowels were being dragged out like children's toys left all over the floor. Why is that your comparison? That unbelievable sight induced oxygen deprivation in my brain. Have I broken you yet, Mim? Color left my vision. A pounding headache, dizzy, and I wanted to vomit. It was like the nightmarish remains of a ceremonial killing. Someone, somewhere, had killed Rika-chan, brought her here, laid her here with her limbs sprawled out, and then cut open her stomach and dragged out her intestines. Red and pink viscera were sticking out of her gut, and her intestines were scattered in every direction, like it had been for fun. The entire ground was covered in an ocean of red and black. A few of the crows had hopped around inside that ocean. They walked through the sea of blood, leaving bloody footprints. And those footprints, there were several still left on Rika-chan's body. Those sinister prints made it seem even more like a bizarre ritual killing. I may have wished for Takano-san and Coach and Oishi to die, but I didn't remember ever wishing for Rika-chan's death.
そうさ、俺じゃない、俺じゃない、俺じゃない。
I stumbled backwards, then stepped on a newspaper. A newspaper in a place like this? The newspaper was what was covering my hatchet. I'd kept it wrapped up and on my belt in order to carry Satoko, and that newspaper had fallen off. Sheesh, don't scare me like that. I bent down to pick it up, and then Satoko looked at me with such disbelief as I'd never seen, and froze. She was looking straight at me, at the hatchet on my belt.
落ち着け、サトコ。これは違うぞ。
Satoko, trembling madly, backed away.
俺じゃない。俺じゃないんだ。俺じゃ。
She didn't care at all that she was exposing herself through the towel. She just trembled and tried to step back from the demon in front of her.
サトコ、落ち着いてくれ。頼むから冷静になってくれ。サト。
Screaming weakly, Satoko began to run unsteadily. Run away, that is.
待ってくれ、サトコ。違うんだ。違うんだ。
The way she ran, it was so weak, so slow. So if I wanted to go after her, I could have caught up. But if I tried to grab Satoko's shoulder or something right now, she might actually go crazy. So I had to follow her and try to clear this up.
高野さんを殺して監督を殺して大石さんも殺したんでございましょう。おじさまを殺そうとしてリカまで人殺し。
違う。俺じゃない。俺は殺してなんかいない。
何を言ってるんですの。あなたさっき自分で言ったじゃありませんの。死ねって、死んでしまえって。それでみんな死んでしまったんでしょ。
俺はその死ねって思っただけで別に。
自分で何をしたか記憶に残っていないんでございましょう。そんな人の話なんか信用できるわけありませんわ。人を殺した時の記憶が欠落してるだけなんじゃありませんの。いや、記憶がないふりをしてるだけなんじゃありませんの。第一、そのナタは何なんですのよ。説明してごらんなさいな。
これは
ほら圭一さんは殺人鬼じゃありませんの。どうしてですの。ちょっと意地悪だったけど楽しくて優しい、一度は本当のニーニーかもしれないとまで思ったのに、どうしてそんな風になってしまったんですの。
I might have been able to slowly answer each one of Satoko's questions at a time, but in this situation, explaining my innocence in such a short period of time was impossible. I mean, I didn't even know if I was really innocent anyway. At the very least, I killed Satoko's uncle. There was no body, but I killed him, without a doubt. At that point, I was far from innocent. And I wished for Takano-san, Coach, and Oishi were dead, and that curse of mine was granted. When I wished for Takano-san to die, I didn't think of it as anything more than a normal thing you'd say to someone you didn't like. But then she actually did die, and I realized that if I wanted people to die, they would. And, hoping it would happen again, I cursed Coach and Oishi to the same fate. So, even ignoring Takano-san's death, Coach's and Oishi's were completely premeditated crimes. Was I a killer just like Satoko said? Was I unable to distinguish between illusion and reality, and turned into a demon without remembering it, becoming a killer who carried out Oyashiro-sama's curse? No, that couldn't be. It was impossible. Ah, damn it. The very word impossible was impossible in Hinamizawa right now. We've taken the word impossible to new heights. How many freaking times have I said that word these past 3 days, and made me say it too? You didn't say it any of those times, I'm pretty sure. Satoko had started crying again, and was walking unsteadily. At first, it felt like she was still running, but now, it was like she was walking away, crying from someone bullying her.
どうしてこんなことになってしまったんですの？どうして
If there was an answer to that, then I wanted to know it too. Why? Why had it turned out like this?
ニーニーがいなくなってずっと寂しかったけど、ケイイチさんが転校してきてくれて、またみんな明るくなって、楽しくなって、毎日が光ってたのに。
Yeah, she was right. Those days were bright and beautiful. And yet, after that, Satoko and I shouted the exact same thing.
どうして
こんなことに。
The cicadas were sneering at the spectacle of our strange game of tag. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Eventually, I heard the murmuring of a stream. The forest parted, and a suspension bridge appeared. Satoko was crossing dangerously, wobbling as though she might fall at any moment. And when I stepped onto the bridge, it swayed a lot, causing Satoko to stagger and fall on the spot. I mean, this bridge looks pretty stable, at least in this drawing. We'll pretend it's more dilapidated than this, or less well built.
大丈夫かサトコ。
近寄らないで。この人殺し。
Satoko shouted, her hatred made very clear. It was sad. If words could cut, then this warmth flowing from my eyes would have been blood for sure.
どうしてこうなってしまったんですの？ケンイチさんのこと大好きだったのに。
I wanted to go up to her and give her a hand, but the distance between us was uncrossable. If I got any closer, Satoko would start shouting again, and say things that would hurt me deeply again. So I couldn't approach any closer than this.
サトコ、俺にもなんでこうなったかわからないんだ。でもこれだけは言える。リカちゃんを殺したのは俺じゃないんだ。それだけは絶対に。
いい加減なこと言わないでほしいですわ。自分の記憶にも自信が持てない人が何を言ったってどう信じればいいって言うんですの？
I tightened my hands into fists. This was mortifying. I wasn't crazy. Hinamizawa was crazy, ever since I wandered into it, lost, on that one night. This insane world, where I was at the festival when I wasn't, the uncle I killed was alive. Where death would come just by wishing for it. It was this world's fault. Mion and Rena started acting strangely, like they were possessed by something too. And Coach wouldn't believe anything I had to say. And even Satoko, who I should have protected, was yelling at me like this. Was the price for killing a man supposed to be this high? Was I really going to be forced to stay in such a bitter world? I did the right thing. At least, I wanted to. So then, why? I hated it. Every time I asked why, the days Satoko and I enjoyed in peace went so wrong.
サトコ、信じてくれ。
She's not gonna believe you, my friend.
俺は人殺しじゃない。
ではそのナタは何なんですの？納得のいく説明はできまして。
このナタが怖いのか。じゃあ捨てるよ。それなら安心だろ。
Satoko didn't nod, but she seemed to be in agreement with that proposition. I clumsily took the hatchet off my belt, then dropped it over the side of the bridge into the stream below.
捨てたぞ。これで話を聞いてくれるな。
武器を捨てたぐらいで気を許すと思いまして。圭一さんほどの方なら私を素手で絞め殺すなんて簡単でしょうに。
Like hell I would ever want to kill Satoko. You idiot.
じゃあどうしたらいい？両手を頭の上で組んだらいいか？
そうですわね。両手を頭の上で組んで後ろを向いてくださいます。
It was a cunning plan, much like the one she used during club activities. Putting my hands on my head and turning away would mean I couldn't attack Satoko very easily. I immediately acquiesced to her request since it would make her feel better.
これでいいか？俺の話を聞いてくれ。
Satoko stood up, then carefully approached me from behind. And then she actually came right up behind me. She was so close, and yet I was so sad that I wasn't allowed to turn around.
圭一さんが悪くないのはなんとなくうすうす分かっていましたわ。
え？
多分あなたは何か悪いものに乗り移られただけなんですの。さっきまでは圭一さんが殺人鬼なんだと思ってたけど、私分かりましたの。あなたの目を見ていたら。
I could hear that Satoko was still crying, but her voice was gentle, just the same.
圭一さんが人殺しなんかするわけがない。圭一さんの体を何か悪いものが乗っ取って悪事に駆り立てただけ。
Was she speaking literally right now? Or was she trying to admonish me? I couldn't tell.
思えばひょっとするとあの人たちも圭一さんと同じものに乗り移られていたのかもしれない。あの時は殺されるとしか思わなかったからそこまでは考えが及ばなかったけど、今ならわかる。あれは乗り移った何か悪いものの仕業だった。
サトコ、何の話だ？
It was less like she was talking to me, and more like she was talking to herself, like she was confessing at my back.
分かってるんですの。私身に覚えがないわけじゃないんですのよ。
Satoko's voice started to become mixed with sobs. Her pained voice tore at my heart. But I didn't know what Satoko was talking about.
西宮殿の屋根によじ登ったことがありますの。何年も前のことですわ。
Once, when Satoko was playing hide and seek at the shrine grounds, she climbed onto the roof of the storehouse for ritual implements, which everyone said not to go near, and hid. Why is Satoko not narrating this? Then, Satoko saw she could get in through a window meant for ventilation. For Satoko, the word curse was plenty scary, but she was more curious about what was inside the unknown storehouse. She removed the grating on the window, which was already hanging off, slid her small body into it, and climbed down inside. It was too dark to see much, but after descending, she realized just how high up she'd been. Despite the darkness, she could see a few things around her, thanks to the faint light coming in from the air window. And, to her disappointment, it was just a regular old storehouse. She tried to leave, but the door was locked up tight from the outside. It was made not to open from within. It sounds like a... Oh, I guess if you just have like a padlock on the outside, that makes sense. She'd have to go back out through the ventilation window she'd come in from. But the window was high on the wall, and there was no way she'd be able to climb back up. Satoko desperately tried not to cry, and racked her brain, thinking of a way to get up there. There were a lot of bird cage-looking things, hanging from chains from the ceiling. She took the hanging chains and strung them along the wall. If she climbed up the bundle of chains, she might be able to manage to climb up to the ventilation window. There was nothing else she could do, so she had to try. And try she did. It was dark and creepy, and she didn't want to stay there forever. The more she thought about that, the more she panicked. She climbed the bundle of chains. Satoko could hear the clinks and clangs of everything creaking under her weight. And then, just as her hand reached the window, one of the metal fixtures she'd used to stick the chains in the wall flew off, and the chains all began to pull loudly and furiously every which way. Spurred on by the sounds behind her, she managed to get back onto the roof from the window. Because of the weight of the flailing bundle of chains, the other fixtures broke. And then, one of the big bird cages hanging from the ceiling fell to the floor with a huge noise. Under it was an image of Oyashiro-sama, his vessel, and the cage took off one of the arms, then trapped some other implements beneath it. It didn't take very long for her to grow scared of what she'd done. The deafening noise could be heard from the rest of the shrine grounds. A few other children heard it and gathered around, and of course, Rika was one of them. Then, Rika's father, the shrine priest, with an angry look ran over, and then, as for what happened next, it was painful to remember. The only one who knew where Rika's parents kept the key to the ritual storehouse was Rika. So, he scolded her, saying this happened because Rika pulled a prank and hid me in there. He was very angry and menacing. Just looking at him was enough to frighten anyone. He exposed Rika's back, took a strangely shaped ritual cane or something, and struck her with it several times. Rika's words at the time, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." That pitiful voice, I still can't get it out of my head. I should have said it was me. I should have said so, to save my best friend from that false accusation, without being afraid of Rika's father's terrible temper. Rika gritted her teeth and cried at the crime she didn't remember doing. Ever since then, the world had become strange. Or had been strange.
分かってるんですの、私には。これは、お社様のたたりだって。あの時、西宮殿を怪我して、親友を見捨てた私への天罰だって。
お社様のたたり。
父も母も濁流に消えた。意地悪だったおばも死んだけど、誰よりも私を可愛がってくれたニーニーも私 私を捨てて家出してしまった。そして圭一さんが転校してきてやっと楽しい毎日が戻ってきたと思ったのに、今度は圭一さんが取りつかれて、リカも殺されて聞いたの私。お社様は本当にたたりをなすときは本人をすぐに殺さないんだって。親しい人から順に殺して、みんな殺してから最後に殺すんだって。だから圭一さんもたたりにやられてきっと今度はレナさんやミオンさんがたたられてしまうんですわ。
Oh, believe me, they've already been cursed.
そして殺したり殺されたり、もう嫌。
落ち着けよサトコ。たたりなんかない。誰もお前をいじめたりなんかしないって。
When I turned around, I was thrust away with amazing force. Given my hands were awkwardly placed on my head, I couldn't take the fall and lost my balance. And I've been pushed not onto the bridge, but to the side, towards the stream. No, this can't be happening. Wah! As one last miracle, I was allowed to grab a cord hanging from the bridge. Far below me was the stream. We were pretty high up, and below were rocks of all sizes. If I fell, it clearly wouldn't be pretty. The entire bridge was tilting under my body weight. My frail little grip probably wouldn't last another minute before my fingers had to let go.
Satoko! Satoko!
I didn't understand myself, what I meant by shouting her name then. Was I asking her to save me? Or was I asking why she did this? Finally, everything came back into focus, and I saw Satoko. And I was surprised at what an odd expression she had. It was the first time I'd seen it. It was an expression of righteous anger, meant only for those who needed to die.
死んじゃい人おらしい。返してよ。ニーニーを返してよ。リカやお母さんを、ケイチさんを返してよ。
As she screamed, she jerked the bridge to and fro. She didn't have to do that. I was going to fall anyway.
私はお前なんかには負けないんですのよ。
Just the juxtaposition of this scene and the last one is... I hate it.
たたりなんかに負けてたまるもんですか。お前になんか絶対に負けない。みんなを奪ったお前に絶対に負けたりなんかしない。
サトコ、これだけは聞いてくれ。
I don't know what my face looked like at the time. Yeah, I don't know why they need to switch either of them. I thought the last one was much better. But it seemed like it was enough to quell Satoko's agitation.
俺のしたことは確かに褒められるものじゃない。いや、いけないことだったかもしれない。だけど、お前に幸せになってほしくってしたことだったんだ。それだけは信じてくれ。
こいつ最後の最後でケイチさんのふりを。
Satoko didn't seem to have any more desire to listen to what I had to say. And for that to happen at the very end like this was tragic.
お前に褒められたくてやったわけじゃなかった。お前に幸せになってさえもらえればよかった。俺たちはダメなんだ。お前が笑っていないとダメなんだ。だから俺が消えたら 笑ってくれ。俺が死ぬことで新しい生活を迎えたならきっと笑ってくれ。
Now, the backgrounds, when it gets like that, they're always pre-done at that point. Although, I think that's... I'm still amazed. This is still... I think the PS2 version's still my favorite.
それだけ約束してくれないか。
But... You'd prefer the other styles right now? Okay. We'll go with this one then. And of course it switches back, like, the next scene. Why do I even bother?
ケイさんの口調で喋るな。おじろ、追ってしまえ。
And those were the last words Satoko ever said to me. Those sad, tragic, and altogether unrewarding words. What on earth was I? My desire to make Satoko happy ended up like this. Where did I first go wrong? And what was the mistake I made? When did I make it? Was I the crazy one, or was it Hinamizawa? Even after all of this, I thought I wasn't crazy at all. It was this eerie world that was crazy, this world I'd accidentally wandered into that one night. Because that fun world, where I never doubted all the crazy times we had as a club, would go on forever. It couldn't possibly have transformed into such an abnormal world. That fun world wouldn't have ever ended with this, with Satoko pushing me to my death. In the end, I was going to be swallowed up by this crazy world. And disappear. No, I'd probably already disappeared. Yeah, probably. On the night of the Watsunagashi, I'm sure that in the world I really belonged to, I had vanished that night, and everyone was worried. It was laughable that it had taken this long to figure out I wasn't around anymore. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th year, Satoko's uncle dying, and me disappearing. In the real world, Satoko had already been freed. Maybe my friends were all lamenting my disappearance and valiantly trying to get back on their feet. And even though they were down to 4 people, the club would reopen and they would have a good time without me, waiting for the day when I would come back. I'm sorry, everyone. I couldn't come back home. But this is what I wished for. It was my wish for Satoko's smile, and my duty as her Nini. At this point, there'll be no one left to torture you. Because Satoshi and I, it took 2 years, but we succeeded. That annoying, toothy smile of yours, we wanted to see it one more time. My pain wasn't gentle or merciful. It was a sharp pain, violent, powerful, and ruthless. What little compassion I had receded in the span of a moment. And now I could die. I could say goodbye to this insane world. Farewell, crazed Hinamizawa. Thanks for giving me the psychic power to kill people whenever I wanted. If you'll still allow it, I'll wish for one last thing. The death of this very world, of this crazed Hinamizawa, so that nobody would ever again have to find themselves lost here again. Okay, so I think that is the last chapter, because I mean, how can we do stuff after we're dead? There's a continue button. That worries me. We'll view that tip. It's pretty early. I think we'll continue just to see what's there. I can't imagine the next chapter being anything super long if it exists because we're dead. But we'll start with research notes. Oyashiro-sama. Nobody really knows what characters to use to write Oyashiro-sama. Knowing this is hard, partly because depending on the time period, he has been called with various titles with subtle changes to his name, and nobody knows the real one. The only thing all time periods agree on is the 4 syllables. Oi, ya, shi, and ro are always used. There is a theory stating the shrine, or yashiro, dedicated to Oyashiro-sama itself became an object of worship, and that people began calling it Oyashiro-sama, or Lord Honorable Shrine, but this doesn't make a bit of sense. I don't know whether this is related, but people say the Furude family, the most respected bloodline in terms of worshipping Oyashiro-sama, actually inherited his blood. And in the legend, the Furude family passes down, if for 8 generations in a row, the firstborn child is a girl, the 8th daughter will be the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. If we go by this legend, the characters used for Oyashiro-sama's name should be O for honorable, Ya for 8, and Shiro for generation. These character assignments are simply something I've thought up. There is no way to verify it. If this is true, then Oyashiro-sama would have been named as such under the assumption he would come again. This, the second coming of an object of worship, can be seen in several religions, so this isn't unusual. But a few of those religions call the second coming of their object of worship a day of judgment, or something along those lines. And we must not forget they mean it to be the end of the world. Rika Furude, pampered and loved dearly by the elderly folk of the village. The rumors say she's the 8th generation, and Oyashiro-sama. I do not know the family tree of the Furudes, but at the very least I can confirm that for the past 2 generations, the first child has been a girl. Rika Furude watches over Hinamizawa. The village were to lose her protection. What would happen? Would peace between man and demon be lost? Would it once again create a hellish landscape where man-eating demons run rampant? A gruesome feast of the demons, who suddenly remember how delicious the weak humans were, who could only cry, scream, and run for their lives. What would that look like? Just imagining it is enough to make my heart pound with excitement. Pound with excitement? Oh, okay. Sounds like a Takano-san journal. I'll just quickly save. So it does look like there's something else. I'm gonna go ahead and do it, because I can't imagine it'll be long, because we're dead. My head was pounding. The sky was bright. It was cold, too. It hurt. Each sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. When I came to, I was lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, oozing blue or red or oozing blood. Oh, sorry, turned blue or red or oozing blood. I was going to say, oozing blue doesn't sound very good, and maybe you are a demon. I could tell it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge from which I had fallen was. Considering I'd dropped from there, it was a miracle that I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken, upside-down car seat, which I guess some pranksters had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying right under me, allowing me to escape instant death. Miraculous. We have a new word that's not impossible. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I'd failed to die, and now I was still stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed. but my body's sluggishness didn't make it feel at all like so short a time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep here for a decade.
言ってて
The more feeling returned to my body, the more the pain flooded in. It hurt so much, it would have been better not to have woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. The term Coach's clinic brought back memories, one after another, memories I wished I hadn't recalled. Satoko was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now. And she would put on some clothes, go to the clinic, get a checkup, and report on how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. This time, they would find out for real that I'd killed her uncle and arrest me. Or would they just send me to a mental institution like they thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Please, someone stop all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. I went downstream and then through an animal trail-like path in the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. Even the music in the game stopped, apparently. For a while now, I've been smelling the terrible stench of burned eggs, and it made my face scrunch up. And then, at last, I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. It was the first time I'd heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rose up in chorus in the evening. Always something to hear. I couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the treetops. I'd never experienced this sort of quiet before. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow, and many leaves were spread on the ground despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently at the side of the road had yellowed, browned, and lost their vigor. Only the sunlight itself was of the June Hinamizawa I knew. And yet it seemed like the seasons had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds led me to spot a few small insects turned on their backs. They weren't moving. They were corpses. I looked closer to see insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had collected them as samples and then strewn them about. The stench. What was it? It was terrible, like burned eggs. Combined with all the bug corpses and leaves falling from the trees in summer, had someone sprayed herbicide or pesticides around here? Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. I hadn't run into anybody, despite how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, and yet it felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. Well, with this smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Just what was this, anyway? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. Hinamizawa was silent. The school would come into view right after turning this corner. And yet, I couldn't hear any commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts that children always made. It was simply quiet. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. And finally I heard something. What just clicked for you, Mem? It was the sound of a few trucks. There were a few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard idling. About 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trunks. Yes, ma'am, he did wish for this world to die. It was hot and humid, Even in my casual clothing, I couldn't imagine how unbearable that must have been. And then I remembered. Our school was rented from the Forest Service field office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for Forest Service trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did forest rangers do, anyway? Felt bad for having them work in such heat, and with such a stench about. They were taking colorful cargo out of the truck and lining it up in the schoolyard. They were containers, fairly large ones, inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavy, too. They were being carried in pairs. They lined them up very neatly, like tuna at a riverside fish market. Several dozen, hundreds of tuna, were completely filling the fairly wide schoolyard up. I forgot my pain for a little while, captivated by this big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. As I stood there watching in a daze, the people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed me out, and they shouted a few things back and forth. I thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post-haste. But then, 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside, and they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered their trunks, but I could tell they were completely full. As they passed, there was an awful smell that made me want to choke. It wasn't the same burned egg smell as before, but an even worse one, like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I think we know. I've been enshrouded in one terrible stench after another all day. Then certain white letters emblazoned on the side of the passing trucks caught my eye. Ground Self-Defense Forces. What? Self-defense forces? Like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard?
おい君、どこから入ってきた?
Suddenly, someone slapped me on the shoulders from behind. Too bad I broke every bone in my spine and it hurt so bad. I turned around and a canopied SDF Jeep was parked there. The SDF is Special Defense Force. I just realized, in case that's taking other people a minute to realize that too. A person had a green raincoat and a gas mask like in the movies, carrying a compressed air cylinder. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere.
どこから入ってきた?
When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound on my head. Made the SDF people exchange glances. I could see their faces through their masks, but they seemed surprised.
君はひなみ様の住民か?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Self-defense forces, not special defense forces.
住所と名前は言えるか?
一応ここに住んでますけど、名前は前原圭一です。あ、住所は獅子骨市ひなみ沢村。
After seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watching from the Jeep started talking into a radio.
本部、応答願います。本部、応答願います。402生存者発見。繰り返す。402生存者発見。場所は営林署入り口前。
This is base. We copy. Secure the survivor at once. What is his status?
生存者は健在。全身に外傷を認められるも生命に支障なし。自立歩行可能。これより保護し本部へ送致します。
I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF? I couldn't help but think it seemed a little bit much. They urged me into the back of the Jeep, and then they told me to put on this gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. It was heavy, hard to see out of, hot, and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point, I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask.
すみません。 何かあったんですか？
君はどこにいたんだ？何をしていたんだ？
Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you.
ずっと山に入ったところにある吊り橋から落っこちて、河原で多分気絶してました。今日が何曜日かもよくわからないです。
今日は昭和58年の6月22日水曜日だ。
That surprised me. Satoko pushed me off the bridge on Tuesday the 21st. That meant I'd been asleep on the riverbed for an entire day.
改めて聞きますけど、何があったんですか？なんで自衛隊が来てるんです？何かの訓練ですか？
Had my question been that difficult for him? None of the troopers would answer me. Why did the text jump to the top? The one in the driver's seat, talking on his own radio, turned on the vehicles. He turned the dial and some broadcast station or other came in. I started to listen to the voice of the radio announcer I was familiar with.
より首相官邸で行われました。記者団からの自衛隊の災害出動が迅速に行われなかったことが前例のない未曾有の大災害に直結したのではないかとの質問に対し、奥野官房長官は次のようにコメントしました。
I guess they just wanted to be able to display more text at once.
でありまして、県知事からの派遣要請を受けて迅速に対応したものと思っております。
とこのように述べ、要請を受けてからの自衛隊の出動は迅速であった。むしろ県側の事態把握に遅れがあった可能性を示唆しました。そもそも自衛隊の派遣を要請した県知事は、災害発生から前例のない大災害であることをいつ認識できたのか、そして災害派遣要請までにいわゆるお役所的なロスタイムが生じ、被害の拡大を招いたのではないか。今後首相官邸より報道部の尾形記者がお送りしました。さてここでもう一度災害発生からの行政の対応を振り返ります。
In the middle of the night between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Hinamizawa village, Shishibone. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in the Hinamizawa area. The gas was relatively heavy. As it spewed out, it began to flow. The flow went down along a small river and headed directly into Hinamizawa village. After a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. With most of the residents asleep, it is thought that they all died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe, striking in the middle of the night, caused its detection to come too late. But there was one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A news dealer shop in Okinomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to its branch office in Hinamizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer's shop made repeated calls but got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well.
非常に悔やまれています。この時点で警察か消防への連絡があったなら、事態はもっと改善されていた可能性が高いでしょう。少なくとも村全滅という惨劇は免れた可能性があります。
6 a.m. Residents in the area in the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. The fire department received the same reports, all from the same confined region. They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported it to the local police. 6:30 a.m. Contact was lost with a patrol car on duty in the Hinamizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported it to the prefecture and prefectural police at 7:15 a.m. 8 a.m. The governor was traveling to nearby prefectures for inspection, so in accordance with regulation, the prefectural environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to Director General and set up a disaster countermeasures office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasures came too late.
近年市民団体によって指摘されていますが、議員待遇者との視察旅行は完全に親睦を目的にしたもので、主演三昧だと噂されています。近い筋の話では、知事は徹夜で飲んだくれて泥酔状態で就寝していたそうです。環境部長から電話があった時も泥酔していて、全く取り合ってもらえなかったのだそうです。知事は言うに及びませんが、知事不在時には本部長を務めることになる環境部長にも怠慢の責任が問われるでしょう。また県としても大災害を想定したマニュアルが用意されておらず、対応が常に後手に回ってしまったのが致命的でした。
No, I pressed the wrong key. 9:12 a.m. On the advice of the prefectural police, the governor requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit, equipped with protective equipment, arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident's outbreak.
とにかく深夜の就寝中というのが不運でした。同じ災害でも日中に起こっていれば全く違ったでしょう。
All households in the Hinamizawa village region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground, but the results are predicted to only increase that number.
スタジオにはゲストとして火山性の災害にお詳しい地学博士の藤原先生にお越しいただいております。先生、このような恐ろしい6月が突然湧き出すようなことはあるのでしょうか。
河口部に限定して申し上げれば決して珍しいことではありません。火山大国日本にはたくさんの活火山がありますが、それらの河口部はいずれも危険なガスの噴出する危険性があり、一般登山者も河口部周辺には立ち入らないのが一般的です。
では今回ひなみ沢村を襲った卵のフラン臭のするガスというのも河口部では一般的なガスということですか。
卵のフラン臭という特徴から、おそらく火山ガスの中でも事故例の多い硫化水素によるものだと考えられます。高い濃度であれば非常に危険なものです。
ひなみ沢村は火山の河口部とは全く縁遠い場所にあるわけですが、そういった河口部でない場所にもその硫化水素が発生することがあるのでしょうか。
詳しいことが分かっていないので、まだはっきりとしたことは申し上げられませんが、外国の例で温泉の地下のマグマだまりからガスが噴出したという記録があります。極めて希少な例ですが、必ずしも河口部でなくても発生の可能性はあるということです。
先生、ありがとうございました。今防衛庁から発表があった模様です。防衛庁の森川さん。
はい、防衛庁です。先ほど防衛庁はひなみ沢村ガス災害の主原因となった火山性ガスについて、陸上自衛隊科学学校での分析の結果、二酸化炭素と硫化水素の混合ガスによるものだったと発表しました。
森川さん、そのガスは依然として噴出を続け、周囲に拡大しているのでしょうか。
現在、ひなみ沢村で救助活動に入っている自衛隊第9師団の報告として、ガスの濃度は徐々に薄まりつつある、これ以上の被害の拡大はないと発表しました。ですが依然、ひなみ沢村地区は危険な状態にあることには変わりなく、今後も注意深く監視を続ける必要があるようです。
防衛庁から報道部の森川記者がお伝えしました。続きまして、避難を余儀なくされている沖宮地区住民の模様をリポートします。現在避難所の一つとなっている下篠崎小学校に報道部の現地記者がお伝えいたします。
何ですかそれ。
Inside the jeep, clambering and bouncing along the rough road, none answered my muttering question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. Where was Hinamizawa village anyway? Someplace deep in the mountains, right? Names of places I had heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of. Wiped out. What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many died and how many were injured? How many people were alive? Where did everyone evacuate to? Eventually, we came into view of Coach's clinic. For the first time, I saw the flag of Japan hanging on a pole outside. Yes, ma'am, the report was very dry and mechanical, and just removed from our protagonist, who has so much emotion and likes screaming at things. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot, and many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic, carrying a stretcher.
もう大丈夫だよ。具合は歩けるかい？
歩けます。あいてて。
Because of my ows, they forced me to lay in the stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio.
外傷多数。骨折もしくは内臓損傷の可能性大。頭部に大きな裂傷。瞳孔正常。眼底に出血なくも脳内損傷の可能性は否定できず。
And then, from the clinic entrance, people lying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Hinamizawa. That's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck. 2 troops, holding shoulders and legs like some kind of baggage, picked them up and threw them into the trunk. In the trunk of the truck, people's bodies piled in heaps. They were just like baggage, and they told me they were already nothing but shells. At that moment, I remembered all those colorful sacks filling the trunks, and them lined up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. Corpses, corpses, corpses. Corpses, corpses. Hope you're not going to count them all, that's a lot.
バカ！犠牲者を粗末に扱うな。あれは村の住民だぞ。
The troops carrying the sacks answered me with a humble salute. The world didn't need this insane version of Hinamizawa. My final wish. Again. It was granted. I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, and that happened the next day. Then please, tomorrow morning, let me die. That insane night is still going on. Please, please end it already.
おい、意識が損失したぞ。患者の名前を呼びかけろ。早く。
前原君、聞こえるかい？聞こえるなら瞬きでいいからしてくれ。前原君、前原君、前原君。
Suddenly, the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their cries.
呼吸が停止したぞ。気道確保。人工呼吸。絶対に行かせ。畜生、畜生。もうこれ以上死者はごめんだぞ。死んでもいい命なんかないんだ。殺すな、殺すな。
I could hear the voice of a man crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so commonplace, and they soaked into my heart too. Maybe It was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko. If this was the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, then this is a little much, Oyashiro-sama. Why did you never punish me? Come to think of it, Satoko said something. Oyashiro-sama's actual curse never goes for the target at first, but kills everyone they love before that. Oyashiro-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, that it wasn't my curse that destroyed it, but Oyashiro-sama's. Given that I was in the stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious, but last of all, I realized one thing. Yeah, today, I had not heard those footsteps following me. Even once. And now I was liberated. As the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind, their tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred in Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone Prefecture. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide erupted from Onigafuchi Swamp, one of the Hinamizawa's area's water sources, and spread throughout the entire village. There were 1,200 victims. 20 have gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigation, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onigafuchi Swamp, and the gas that gushed from it was determined to be the cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forth claiming this disaster was a curse based in Hinamizawa village legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There were apparently local legends of a curse spreading a miasma, destroying the village, and some scholars believe a similar gas disaster may have happened in the past and remain part of these legends. More extreme periodicals suggested this was an extension of the string of freak death incidents that had been happening in recent years in Hinamizawa village, stirring interest and theories about this curse of Oyashiro-sama. In addition, relatives of those in Hinamizawa village who had escaped the disaster complained of sickness afterwards and were hospitalized. Some of them even died of unknown causes, further encouraging such extreme opinions. On top of that, several relatives professing to be possessed by Oyashiro-sama's curse committed suicide in strange ways. And the impact the disaster has had on the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas sneaking around in the middle of the night killing people spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficulty breathing, headache, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being obsessed by it began doing odd things. Most of these were mistakenly attributed by the tabloid press. But afterwards, some began to call the mental issues arising from the Hinamizawa tragedy the Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa village region, the object of all kinds of rumors and speculation, is currently closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was at one point undone as a result of a decrease in the gas's density, but that autumn another gas burst was confirmed, leading to the area being cordoned off again. Word is that the area is sound asleep, all traces of its former life intact and left to rot. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Maibara, teenage age, who lived at Hinamizawa village. At the time of rescue, he had some trouble breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in a general hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press have been asking him for some time, but all interviews are being refused. What did he see in Hinamizawa? what happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Hinamizawa village. Today he remains silent, unwilling to speak of it. Oh gosh, now we have a memorandum of all the people who died? Well, these are all the people we killed with our curses. Except for Rika. Oh, and Satoko went missing instead of dying, apparently. What is this music? Apparently we are living our days in peace. Okay. So I think there's only one thing left in this game. After you've beaten it, they have a kind of after party where all the characters come in and talk about their theories on what happened. Was it a curse? Was it humans just being jerks to each other? I guess in the case of this gas disaster, was it natural? Was it a curse? So each of them talk about it, discuss, share their opinions and points of views. I think that's all that we have left in this game. Assuming that's the case, we're going to go ahead and do that, and then we will have officially completed this game. I can answer that question, Mim, but okay, it's paused here, so I'll answer your question. Why are there no answers? This game is set up into different arcs. I think there's currently 7 on Steam and more coming. But the first, I believe it's 4 arcs, are called the question arcs, meaning they're designed to give you questions but no answers to any of those questions. They give you some new information each one, and you try and piece it together. And then the later arcs are called the answer arcs, where they try and answer questions you specifically had in the previous arcs. That's why there are no answers yet. An elderly couple living in Osaka Prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son, who passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they began to, I see Mim is very, very mad that there are no answers. The after party will have some theories. While not answers, maybe it will help you come up with your own answers to it. They began to organize their son's remains in order to organize their minds and came across the cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the deceased had experience working as a journalist for a photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. The label on the tape read 11/28/1983 Keiichi Maibara. It is thought the tape was recorded during an interview with Keiichi Maibara, the only survivor of the Great Hinamizawa disaster that occurred in June 1983. As the only person who lived through the disaster on the night of June 21st, shrouded in mystery, many interested parties attempted to question him, but he never once spoke physically to anyone in a public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being of extremely high value. Click.
なんだか録音されてると思うとすごく喋りにくいですね。
気にしない気にしない。ほら、こうすれば録音してるのも気にならないでしょ。
After this, the sound quality dramatically decreases, because I guess he hides it under something. Did he cover the recording device with something?
じゃあ始めるね。
Wow, they actually changed the audio quality. Not that it's decidedly much worse, but I appreciate that.
まず最初の質問から。 圭一君はあの大災害の夜どこにいたのかな？
神社から裏に抜けてずっと林道を進んで、吊り橋があるんですよ。山に入る少し前に。そこから落ちて気を失ってました。
それは大災害の夜、つまり21日から22日にかけての深夜のこと？
いいえ、21日の火曜日の朝です。それで次の日の昼間に目を覚ましたわけですから、1日半はそこで気を失ってたと思います。
どうしてそんなところに？誰もが持つ疑問だけど、当日は平日で、しかも落ちた橋は君の家と学校からは大きく離れているよね。ザックバランに行って、君が大災害の発生を事前に知っていて、村から逃げる途中に吊り橋から落ちたんじゃないかっていう声もあるんだけど。
冗談じゃないです。勝手なことを言わないでください。
私も随分ひどい言い分だと思うよ。気を悪くしないでね。さて、次に圭一君が落ちたという吊り橋なんだけど、地図で言うとここだよね。神社の裏から林道を抜けて至る吊り橋というのは。
多分俺もあんまり行かないところなので自信はないですが。
そんなに行かないところにどうして平日の朝に行ったのか疑問は尽きないけどな。それでこの君が気絶していたという河原なんだけど、実はそれはありえないという噂は知っているかい？
They just wanted to bring that word impossible in one last time.
ありえない。またありえないですか？まだ。
For a little while, Keiichimibara mutters the word impossible several times. I'm glad they don't have me say it 7 more times.
どうしてありえないと？
火山ガスが発生したのは鬼ヶ淵という沼なのは知ってるよね。それで学者の先生が緻密な模型を使ってシミュレーションをしたら興味深いことが分かったんだってさ。例の火山ガスってのは空気よりも重いらしくて、地形に沿って低いところへ流れ込む水みたいな性質があるんだってさ。それで発生源の鬼ヶ淵沼からそういうガスが噴出し、どれくらいの時間をかけて村を覆うのか実験がされたんだ。そしたらさ、君が気絶していたという河原、流れ込むんだよ、ガスが。
よく言ってる意味がわからないんですが。
つまり君が本当にこの河原で気絶していたなら、君は丸一晩猛毒の火山ガスの中にいたことになるんだよ。だからつまり君がここで気絶をしていた可能性は否定されたわけさ。もっとざっくばらんに言うよ。私はね、君が嘘をついているんじゃないかなって思うんだ。君は大災害の時、安全なところに身を潜めていて、ガスが薄れた頃合いを見計らって村に現れて自衛隊の人に保護された。どうかな？図星かな？
For a short time, the journalist presses Keiichimibara further, in a teasing way, but all that can be heard are heavy sighs.
別に仮にそうだったとしても、俺は今更驚きませんけどね。
驚かないとはどういう意味だい？
あんたもさっき言いましたよ。
Was this recording really taken of Keiichimibara? Some harbor suspicions.
ありえないって。あのひなみ沢ではありえないことなんていくらでも起こるんです。あそこじゃいないはずの場所に人がいる。死んだはずの人が生きてる。そんなこと珍しいことじゃないんですよ。まさか俺自身が死んだはずなのに生きているってやつを立証しようとはね。
Why are you also laughing? And not in a like, why are we laughing kind of way. The journalist and Keiichi Maibara both laugh for a little while. To verify its authenticity, I had the others in the Maibara family check the tapes with his voice in it. However, the sound was not clear, and much time had passed, so the relatives I checked with couldn't remember what he sounded like. I was unable to gain positive proof it was actually his voice. I mean, maybe Mim, trying to ease the tension.
あの大災害がひなみ沢連続開始事件の5年目のたたりではないかという話についてはどう思う？
いや、それはないですね。5年目のたたりは俺ですから。
え？何のこと？
何のことって、あんたの話に対する答えですよ。
Doubts also remain regarding the date, 11/28 written on the tape.
信じないでしょうけど、俺が起こしたんです。俺がね、こんな村丸ごと死んじまえって願ったから怒ったんです。
そりゃ豪快な話だね。
豪快？そういう面白い言い方もあるんですね。高野さんも俺が殺したし、監督も大石も俺が殺した。
After Maibara Keiichi's failed suicide attempt on a certain August day, 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with a mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility.
あの時の俺にはね、何か神がかり的な力が宿ってたんですよ。そう。例えるなら、足音かな。
足音？ってなんだいそれ。
あんた、足音を聞いたこともないんですか？ペタペタ、ひたひた。あんたも今日からは歩いてるとき、不意に立ち止まってみると面白いですよ。
This facility never allowed any news coverage, so it's extremely unlikely that a tape from the media dated after August 1983 would have his voice on it.
それでね、自分がちゃんと立ち止まったにもかかわらず、足音が一つ余計に聞こえたなら、気をつけた方がいいですよ。
そうだね。気をつけるようにするよ。
そんなに俺、面白いこと話してますか？あんた、さっきからヘラヘラと笑ってばかりですね。
However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful methods of collecting data while he was active, so there is still a possibility that he broke into the facility and forced Keiichi Maibara to talk.
監督と同じだ。俺のことを同情したり、話を聞いたりしてるふりをしながら、その実、人のことを異常者扱いしてる目だ。
そんなことはないよ。
いや、俺にはわかるんです。あんたの目は監督と同じだ。あの日以来、もう足音は聞こえない。
Is this truly Keiichi Maibara's voice? The authenticity of this recording is still wrapped in mystery.
だから俺にはもう、あんな恐ろしい力は残ってないだろうけど。
Well, Mim, I'm sure there'll be theories about why everyone died in the after party, and we can all share theories then.
今ここでもう一度、あんたの死を願ってみる。俺に不愉快な話ばかりをするあんたの死を。 そうだな。今回は一つ死に方も決めてみようかな。高野さんは焼け死にだったから。じゃああんたは逆に水だ。水に溺れて死ぬってのはどうだい？絶好調だった当時の俺なら次の朝までには必ず死んでる。
15 years after this tape was created, the reporter, just as Keiichi Maibara had predicted, died in an accident out on the sea.
さてあんたは何日後に水で死ぬかな？あんたも気をつけろよ。俺ごときにたたり殺されるな。
The recording ends in the middle of Keiichi Maibara's laughter. And Keiichi Maibara, late on the night of 11/30, 1983, 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from a high fever, reason unknown. Records remain of the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button the day before he died.
足音がまた一つ余計に。
A new scenario has been unlocked and so joyous. The all-cast review session has become available. So this is the after party. So we are going to go do that. I think it's usually about 20-ish minutes. So we'll go and do that, and then I think we will have done and 100%ed this game. All-cast review session. Yes, ma'am, that laugh.
この度も日暮の泣く頃に睡たたり殺しを最後までお楽しみいただき誠にありがとうございました。
Is that, oh, does this one only have the...
少し違う雰囲気でお送りしましたがいかがだったでしょうか。
Apparently, the extra one only has this one, so for the art style. So I guess we're stuck with it. But it means we get to see the lip syncing part.
お楽しみいただけたなら幸いです。
Although I'm pretty sure they lip sync for the whole paragraph, even if I don't click through it.
今回も胸のすくようなバッドエンドだったわね。
And I think it's only the main characters which have lip syncing, and Takano-san is technically a side character.
私個人としては大災害が実際に起こった時の惨劇の描写も欲しかったところだけど、みんなの感想も同じかしら？
Jeez, Takano-san, why?
そんなわけありませんでしたよ。
Oh, no, we do have art. It was just that first bit. Oh, gosh. Is it this one that has the... Oh, this one has it. So we're going to stick with this one just to watch the lip syncing bits.
大大大バッドエンド。
Can we get a worse end than literally everyone in the village died eventually?
あれれ？バッドエンドって割にはみーちゃんは楽しそうだね。っていうか、もう笑うしかないってのが本音でしょうね。
なははは。毎回嫌な割り方がエスカレートすると思ったら、とうとうここまで行き着いちゃったわけですからね。
I told you, remember, it was too joyous.
みんな仲良し して死んじゃったのですよ。
Because, man, we all died together as friends.
仲良しなのです。ニパ
そういう見方もあるのかな。毎回死んでる僕はもうごめんだな。たまには死なずにエンドを迎えたいね。
富武さんって時報みたいな役割なんですよね。富武さんが死んだら、あ、後半戦突入だみたいな。
I mean, you're not wrong. I feel like the laughing's even worse with the mouths moving.
さて、ではここで今回の会合に改めてご参加いただく皆さんです。拍手でお迎えください。まずは監督こと入江京介さん。
ご紹介に預かりまして光栄です。どうもどうも。脇役だったわけですが、トータルで見てみるとかなり美味しい役だったなぁなんて思ってます。
So this line here is a joke that in the very first game, the main character, because we play from their point of view, didn't even have character art and had to call in for this bit. And they're like, why aren't you here? And he goes, because I don't have character art yet.
本当ですわね。脇役にしては出番もセリフも多すぎで、しかもキャラが強すぎましたよ。
Yeah, Coach is not a minor character in this to me.
今後どれだけ出番があるかはわかりませんが、その説は応援よろしくお願いしますね。
ありがとうございました。では次に我らが担任、知恵ルミ子先生。
Alright, our teacher didn't have a portrait.
皆さんどうもこんにちは。
I need to look at the teachers.
いろいろと登場シーンもあったのですが、今回カレー勝負で目立つシーンをいただきまして。
It's called They Ran Out of Time or Laziness or Budget, I guess.
カレーをバカにする人は許せません。ええ。誰もバカになんてしていませんよ。あ、知恵先生に席を空けてあげてください。さて、これでとりあえず全員揃ったね。レナ、また乾杯をよろしくね。では皆さん、各卓のコップをお持ちになってください。
I have my water bottle in hand.
お飲み物はいろいろありますよ。
They have different drinks apparently. I do not.
本当にお疲れ様会も賑やかになりましたね。今何人ぐらいいるんです？
私たちを加えて多分10人くらいはいると思います。
未成年人と成年人の人数比がこれでやっと互角かな。これで胸を張ってアルコールが飲めるね。
Yes, the minors can drink without being ashamed.
ビールってなんで冷えてるとあんなに美味しいのに、ぬるくなるとあんなにまずくなるのかしら。
Why is this what we're talking about? Yeah, I think the teacher's mouth doesn't open wide enough, ma'am. I think that's the thing.
なんででしょうね。
さあ、ビールを継ぎますよ。
Or not, maybe not what like tall enough is what I mean.
1、2、3、4、5、6。あれ？大人は6人でしたっけ？
みー、僕も泡麦茶がいいのです。リカちゃんもお酒はダメ。
Foamy barley tea is how I will now refer to beer.
ではレナさん、そろそろお願いします。はいはい。
Yeah, we didn't get to see an uncle to hate. I don't know. I feel like it's just we didn't need that to hate him, really.
皆さん、
I can DM you a picture of what he looks like after this, so you can actually see what he looks like.
では皆さん。 日暮らしの泣く頃に水たたり殺し
I mean,
本当にお疲れ様でした。
if we killed the whole village, I guess we got him in the end.
乾杯。せーの、
乾杯。
Yay, clap, clap, clap.
さて、では毎回恒例の
Okay, now we're getting into the theories.
シナリオ議論でもやってみますかね。
So they're going to go through different... each person's going to say, basically, whether they think what happened was based off of Oyashi Urasama's curse, or humans being dicks, or some combination thereof, and they have kind of like a informal argument with like rebuttals and whatnot.
とは言ったものの、今回のシナリオもケムに巻かれっぱなし。意見のある方は挙手をお願いしますね。お、みんな慎重。挙手ないね。
じゃあ私が先陣を切ろうかしら。申し訳ないんだけど音楽を
Why are you requesting a music change?
もう少しミステリアスな感じの。
There you go, Mim. It doesn't sound fun anymore. Takano-san has granted your wish.
ああ、これがいいわね。
ムードが出まくりなのです。では高野さんお願いします。
多分ね、たたり殺しのシナリオだけを吟味しても謎は解けないんじゃないかと思うの。
そりゃあ同感だね。ここまで物語が重なればそういう仕掛けがあることは明白だしね。
そんな仕掛けありましたかしら。
これが正しい例かはわからないけど、鬼隠しで前原くんが大石さんとレストランで食事をして、それが園崎さんに知られていて不思議だったってくだりがありますよね。
鬼隠しだけだと実に不思議な出来事ですけど、綿流しを読めば別に不思議でも何でもないことがわかります。
劇中の私が入ったレストランは園崎系列の店だったということですね。園崎一族はこの辺りの飲食店やら何やらを経営しているわけですから。
で、ケイちゃんの顔を知る者があの店にいて、それを私に伝えたと考えれば比較的筋は通るでしょ。そういうことだね。
日暮の物語は微細に異なる場所もありますけど、大筋の設定においては多分4つのシナリオは共通していると思います。例えばキャラクター設定。
鬼隠しのレナは怖い人だけど、それは鬼隠しだけの設定ということじゃなくて、レナはレナで4つのシナリオに全く変わらない設定で出演しているということですね。
You were terrifying in that.
全く変わらない設定というのは同感。僕がどのシナリオでも常に同じ場所で同じ死に方をするのはその最たるものだね。
You're not going to get over dying the same way, are you?
どんな物語になっても必ず同じ日に死にますですよ。
綿流し編でお祭りの最中に高野さんと富武さんが西宮殿に忍び込むというシーンがありますけど、あのシーンも他のシナリオでは描かれなかっただけで起こったことになっているのかもしれませんね。
なっているそうです。綿流し当日のお天気や部活の内容、聡子のおじさんの帰宅など、いくつかのイベントを除けばほとんどが共通するそうです。
だとすると新しい疑問がいくつか湧きますね。全く同じ環境で語られる物語なのに、なぜああも違う物語に派生するのか。
一般的なサスペンスアドベンチャーの視点で考えると、物語が派生する 分岐点が存在したってことになりますね。
綿流しで言うと、お姉に人形を渡した、あるいは渡さなかったというあたり。
Now, Mim, I know you haven't seen the other ones, but this is actually the answer to the second game, I think, is where it goes wrong, is they have this club event, they each get a doll, and Keiichi gives his to Rena instead of Mion, and that makes Mion go crazy and end up killing him. That's the start of it, at least. Gets the ball rolling.
あんな序盤の選択肢1個でバッド確定とは恐ろしい選択肢だね。
Yeah, and it was, I think that's in like chapter, like the second or third chapter of the game or something.
ではたたり殺しに話を戻しますと、この場合ですと叔父を殺そうと決意するあたりですかしら。
私はずっとそれ以前、同居人の女性がトラブルで失踪して叔父がひなみ沢に帰ってくることになったあたりからもう分岐しちゃってると思うわね。
では一番最初の鬼隠しの分岐はどこなのですか？
やはり劇中の私が登場してお社様のたたりに関する連続開始事件のことを話すあたりからだと思いますね。
今思ったんですけれど、ちゃんと圭一さんがミオンさんの気持ちを理解して、それで大石さんも私のおじさんも現れなかったら何も起こらずに平和に過ごせるってことなんじゃありませんの？
へえ、Satokoにしちゃ本質ズバリじゃないのよ。確かに言えて
る。じゃあこの暗い物語は大石さんとおじさんが現れないことを祈りつつ、
But how can we go uncle hunting if there's no uncle?
園崎さんのご機嫌を損ねないようにすればみんな幸せになれるということなのかしら。
イエーイ、おねえバッドエンド用意。
You're such a dick.
みんな気をつけてね。おねえの機嫌を損ねるとバッドエンド確定ですよ。何よそれ。シオン、あんたには次は容赦なく痛い目見させてやるからね。泣いた謝ったって許してやるもんか。
I think you were pretty merciless last time when you trapped your sister in a cage. And then watched you like murder the guy she had a crush on, you know.
これまでの物語の謎は全然解けないけど、どうやったらこの物語が大団円で終わるかのグッドエンドの推理はできちゃいましたね。
本当にそれで幸せになれるんでしょうか。大石さんと北条哲平さんの不登場、ミオンさんのお人形の件、本当にそれさえ気をつければいいんですかね。
そうそう、みんなは一つ大きな最後を忘れてるよ。ひなみ沢大災害という天災を忘れたかい？
天才は防ぎようがないですわよ。村のみんなにガスマスクを配って引っ越しでもしますの？
あれはきっとお社様のたたりなのです。だからお社様を怒らせないようにしなければならないのですよ。
なははは、ややこしい話になってきましたね。つまりお社様も怒らせてはダメと。お社様を怒らせないためにはどうすればいいのでしたっけ？
ダムの計画そのものがきっとダメなんでしょうね。ダム計画がそもそもなければよかったんじゃないでしょうか。
それは難しいわよね。だとしたらお怒りになったお社様を鎮める儀式が必要ね。
鬼ヶ淵の沼に捧げ物を沈めるあの儀式ですね。
捧げ物って何をお社様に捧げるって言うんですか？
そりゃあ決まってるでしょう。どんな分岐にも関係なく話の流れから脱落が確定している人だよ。どうせ死ぬならひなみ沢のための人柱になってもらわなくちゃね。
その脱落が確定している人ってやっぱり僕のことかな。
やっぱり二郎さんはこの物語に欠かせない重要な役割の人だと信じてたわ。
Yeah, you just have to die in the correct manner.
お役目を立派に果たしてちょうだいね。
これで今度こそグッドエンドの大団円シナリオの青写真ができましたね。せっかくだからちょっとやってみましょうか。役者は全員揃ってることですしね。
We're gonna do it right now? First, we stop Uncle Hojo, whose lover ran out from him, from returning to Hinamizawa.
いやー、私が北条ですよ。
He has no portrait, so I'm standing in.
はいはーい。行き場をなくしてロンリーブルー。早くひなみ沢に帰ってさとこちゃんをお持ち帰りしてじっくり教育。未来はご奉仕メイドですよ。ではひなみ沢にバイクで帰りますか。キーを入れてカチッとカチッ。
Okay, blow up his motorcycle.
廃人に規制でございますわよ。さとこちゃん、火薬の量多すぎじゃないかな。
I hope Coach is alright. Second bracket, sweat. Next we stop Oishi from showing up. Are we gonna blow up his car?
今度は私ですか。私の名前はクラウド大石。ジャジーでブルースな感じがだいぶイケてるナイスミドルですよ。
Hot, good-looking middle-aged man. One sec. There we go. Hot, good-looking middle-aged man. Perfect.
そして忘れちゃいけないのがお姉へのアフターフォロー。
Follow-up service?
ささお姉、可愛らしいお人形さんですよ。よかったでちゅね。なんだか納得いかない。
で、最後にお社様の怒りを鎮めなくちゃならないと。
Why are you participating in this?
では最後のお役目よろしくね。
踏んじばってすまきにして吊るして。
Oishi, you're still alive. I don't think part 2 worked. Yeah, part 2 worked.
3日かけて沈めるんでしたっけ。
面倒くさいですからここは一気にいっちゃいましょう。ガボガボガボガボガボ。
これにて一件落着。
Okay, apparently we know everything we have to do next time.
なんでかな。突然レナの腕が光ってうなって大変なことに。獅子類類で大変なことになってますのです。
Why, Rika? Oh, it's our obligatory Keiichi calls in moment.
あれ、電話だ。もしもし。あ、ケイチくん、お疲れ様です。
おうおう、相変わらず大盛り上がりみたいじゃねえか。こっちは次回の台本読みで相変わらず忙しいってのに。まあいいや、今日の俺は機嫌がいいから嫌味はなしにしてやるぜ。シオンはいるか。もう行っちまってもいいんじゃないか。あれ
あれ、今ここで発表しちゃうんですか？とはいえもうすでに分かってる人たちもいるでしょうけど、まあいいか。
シオンさんとケイイチさんの二人っきりの秘密ですって？なんでこれ聞いてない聞いてない聞いてない。
Why is this part not voiced? Okay, say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. The main character of the next story will be Shion Sonozaki.
まあつまりはそういうことです。
Okay, so in the next game, we don't play as main character Kun. We play as a different character.
初登場以来ダントツの人気ナンバーワン。姉妹キャラでも遅れ登場した片割れの方が絶対に人気が出るってのはギャルゲー全盛時代から決められたお約束ですし。
わけわかんねえことはどうでもいいよ。とにかく俺はそのシナリオでは主人公のお役ごめん。
Does that mean we finally get to see Keiichi's art for once?
風の噂じゃ俺のボイス数を超えてるとか。へっへん、俺の苦労を少し。
まあケイちゃんのボイス数は異常ですから他のシナリオに入れるようになればすぐに逆転されるでしょうけど、まあ園崎姉妹の実力ってやつをとくと皆さんにお見せして差し上げますよ。
でもいいんですの、シオンさん。
I mean, is that worse than being a murderer this time, him?
主人公は毎回ろくでもない最後を迎えると決まってましたよ。
まあこれまではね。でもね、次回からは必ずしもそうはならないんですよね。
日暮の泣く頃に水も今回のたたり殺しと外伝の染め写しで一区切り。ミステリアスな謎を次々と提示してきた出題編はここで折り返しになり。
Now, they say the first half because I think originally it was supposed to be 3 questions and 3 answer arcs. They're actually further than that now. They're on at least 7. My question was weirdly phrased. Would you rather be a murderer? So, yeah. So I think actually the 4th game might actually be the first answer arc, and it corresponds. I don't know if it's to the first game or to the second game.
次の章からはこれまでの謎に挑み、そしてさらなるドラマの幕開けとなります。
Temporary name. Yes, they're now called the answer arcs, is the official name.
つまり私が名探偵になって理不尽な謎をバスバス解決していく痛快ストーリーなわけです。今のうちから決め台詞を考えておかないとね。あなたを犯人ですみたいな。納得いかない納得いかない。御三家の秘密に近づきすぎて閉じ込められていたぶられて。
Is that a threat, Mion?
悲惨な最後を遂げる役に決まってる。お姉こそ私に全ての謎と秘密をカンパされて謝罪の言葉を口にしながら自害なされる心の準備は OK です。
お社様のたたりの可能性はなしなのですか？さて、そのしーちゃんが主役の目明かしに進むためには新しい警察資料が必要です。はじめからを選んでゲームを開始すると主人公にシオンが追加されているので、それを選んで進めてください。
Why did the audio change on that?
鬼隠し、綿流し、そしてたたり殺し。
If you're curious, Mem, so this chapter, Tatari Goroshi, literally translates to the curse-killing chapter.
この3つのシナリオを重ね透かして皆さんにはどんな真実が見えてくるでしょうか。推理はまとまるどころかますます煙に巻かれていくだけ。レナも全然わからないです。
For all of you warriors who never yielded to these 3 mysteries and kept on fighting, we present you with one final scenario as thanks for your enthusiasm. One which we never originally planned on giving to you. Please enjoy it. I'm scared. It can only be fan service. Oh gosh, I think I know exactly what scene it is. Or did they mean literally they're making another chapter in the game? Like the next game? I don't know. I'm gonna quickly look at the Steam achievements. It looks like we've done all of them. These games have a weird glitch where sometimes even if you read all the tips, it doesn't actually give you the achievement for it, unless that's what they meant. No, we've definitely done all of these. Yeah, we've definitely done all of those. I guess they just meant the next game wasn't originally planned, and then they did it. But yeah, that's Higurashi Chapter 3. Yeah, thank you for everyone who showed up. We've completed it. We'll definitely be doing the next game, Chapter 4. I already own it, but I want to take a break from this game. I want to finish up Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky, or at least get further in that first. My new streaming time, instead of being Thursday evenings, will now be Monday evenings Eastern Time, starting with this following Monday in whatever that is, 4 days. And that will be my sort of new standard stream. And that game I might do more than just Mondays, but that will be my guaranteed time. And any other dates I will for sure be putting up in the Discord. And who knows, maybe I'll make the more random streams Higurashi or some other game. Haven't fully worked out how that's going to work. But what I can say is next stream will be Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky. It will be Monday. It will be starting around 6:30 Eastern Time. And yeah, thank you so much to everyone who showed up. Please take care of yourselves. Get up, stretch, have some water, take your eyes off the screen, and I hope I will see you all again next time. Bye.